Hey guys, welcome back. In the previous episode, which was our first by the way, we covered the top 5 security news of 2021. In this episode, we're going to cover the top 5 IT news for 2021. So let's get started. Okay, so let's begin with the biggest item of 2021 in IT, which was chip shortage. This is something that started in 2020, but only got significantly worse in 2021. Irrespective of which component, industry, domain, it doesn't matter. Everyone was impacted. But why did this situation become so bad in 2021? Well, here are the top 3 reasons. The first and the most obvious one is, well, he who shall not be named, COVID. Due to the pandemic, there were severe disruptions within the factories that manufacture these semiconductors, particularly in China, where closed factories or factories with reduced capacity resulted in severe throughput losses. The second key reason for the semiconductor shortage is an absolute increase in demand from non-IT industries like automobile, energy, and others, who are venturing into a very transformational phase and incorporating more and more IT-centric services and thus creating another round of demand. Take the example of Tesla, which is now forcing other key and major manufacturers like Volkswagen, Toyota to spend billions and billions on increasing IT-enabled services on their automobiles. This is creating such a huge demand for semiconductors that it is creating even further issues in the supply chain. The next major reason is cryptocurrency mining. While it may not be the biggest reason for creating a semiconductor shortage, we cannot ignore the fact that a lot of hardware was purchased for this activity given the high valuation it reached in 2021, especially Bitcoin. This contributed quite heavily in the shortage of key components, especially on CPUs and graphics cards. Okay, so in essence, these above 3 along with a few other minor ones resulted in a perfect storm of supply chain issues created across the globe and absolute mayhem and panic everywhere. While the data now is starting to show improvement in early 2022, to be honest, I do not think that this is going to improve significantly in this year, simply because there is such a huge demand coming across the board and particularly from the traditional non-IT service sectors that any addition in capacity is going to be consumed quite swiftly and quickly. Continuing with the chip shortage, another shortage seen in 2021 was the skilled labor shortage across all countries. Attrition rates reached high levels across all industries and IT was absolutely no exception. The rates pretty much doubled across all countries and it was particularly bad in India, where some organizations saw the attrition levels reach a staggering 30% and even above. Just like the previous one, the 3 key reasons for this are as follows. Just like the chip shortage, COVID was the primary reason for this attrition. With people working from home pretty much full time, there was a clear lack of emotional connect that people had and they found it much easier to move around. Couple the fact that there was more and more demand coming on the employees with respect to work and not enough support being provided to work from home, a lot of people just simply got fed up and decided to move on in the hope that things would get better and better with the next organization. The next one is again very similar to the chip shortage issue, which is the new demand coming from typically non-IT industries like automotive, energy, and others. The advent of energy and automobile simply meant that they had newer avenues to explore. The third and also a major contributing reason was a clear lack of growth during the initial few months of the pandemic. You see, when the pandemic hit in March of 2020 and when the lockdown started, the salaries were either kept stagnant and in a lot of cases, particularly in countries like India, salaries were reduced. The employees continued to work on similar or reduced salaries, while the workload, as I explained earlier, simply kept increasing. This was a double whammy, but employees sustained during 2020. But with 2021, the economy opening up and with new avenues and opportunities like in automobile, energy and other sectors opening up, again, the demand and supply situation simply caved. Hopefully, just like the chip shortage, the pressure should start to ease a bit in 2022, but time, as always, will tell. The next major point, and probably my own favorite, is the emergence of ARM as a viable alternative to x86. This year saw some major developments in the computing space, with key launches coming across the board, whether it's from Apple, Amazon, Alibaba or others. Unlike previous years, where it was all about efficiency based on ARM, this year for the first time we saw that they were not only competing on efficiency, but also pretty much gunning for the performance grounds. Take the example of Apple, where the M1 Pro and the M1 Max almost came very close to the top of the line Windows machines. I'm speaking laptops only for now, but the trend is pretty much obvious across the board, even in servers. But the key thing that came out in all of this is that the performance per watt, which is a massively key metric for the data center space, the numbers were staggering and absolutely mind-blowing. There is minimal or no competition coming from x86 if you factor in performance per watt as one of your baseline metric. I'm really glad that ARM has started to expand in the mainstream corporate computing and not just consumer electronics. So 2022 is going to be another great year for ARM. Continuing with the topic of ARM, another related topic was the rapid increase of hyperconsolidation. Now, what do I mean by that? It's basically the merging of key hardware components which are typically staggered across different places, both physically and logically, resulting in some massive improvements in performance and efficiency. Again, as with the previous one, the Apple M1 CPUs with their unified memory architecture got the most airtime. But it doesn't mean that there were not other massive key launches in server space. Take Cerebras for example, which is a startup based out of US. They launched the world's largest chip ever built with 850,000 cores on a single wafer. This was specifically designed for AI and is defeating the current champions by a mile with cluster level scaling, high bandwidth and low latency while having a fraction of the footprint. This is the one that I'm most excited about over the next couple of years, as it is pretty much game changing. 2022 is going to be another great year with ARM and hyperconsolidation moving forward. I am truly excited to see what does Apple, Amazon, Alibaba and others have in store for us, and how much of a performance increment will they be able to achieve, and can they actually for the first time ever get the performance card. And lastly, the rise of the AI, which was extremely apparent in 2021. Not just in corporate IT, but in our day-to-day lives. The demand and relevance for AI significantly increased in 2021. Coupled with overcoming the labor shortages and the quest for solving even more and more complex problems using AI, there was a clear drive to spend and move to the next levels. This, along with the hyperconsolidation that we talked about earlier, is helping AI workflows which were seemingly impossible just a few years ago make absolutely possible within the realms of reality. Several organizations are now using AI in their day-to-day working. Take the example of CBS, which is a broadcasting organization. They are actually using AI to decide which type of material to show on their streaming services. We already know how Netflix, Amazon and others have been using this. But again, broadcasting is just one of the areas. There is pretty much every industry that is now using more and more of AI in their day-to-day jobs. We'll be covering this in the future episodes. Alright everyone, that's it for today. Thank you so much guys for listening to me. Do provide your feedback in the comment section below. As always, it helps to make the channel even better. This is just the beginning of a very long journey, and all your feedback really matters a lot. You can connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook and others. The links are in the description below. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay updated. I'll see you on Sunday.